What's up, party people? Don't worry, okay, I have brought books to show you this week. I know you were worried there for a moment that I might have, who knows, exhausted my funds, ran out of space, although I did run out of space, but don't worry, I have more books to show you, and we'll get started right now. So, the very first is a book by Mary Wollstonecraft. It's nonfiction. It's called The Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Now, it's one of those OG feminist texts, 1792, in which I think she argues that women ought to receive an education and that they should receive the same rights as men. Very reasonable. Now, Mary Wollstonecraft is cool because she was the mother of Mary Shelley, who wrote Frankenstein. So I guess Mary Shelley was, before she was married, would have been Mary Wollstonecraft. So I don't know, it's kind of narcissistic, naming your daughter after you. I guess that happens with men too, but then it would be Mary the Second. So this is Mary the First. Anyways, yeah. Next up on the stack, we've got David Ogilvy's Confessions of an Advertising Man. Ogilvy's first book, he wrote 4, I believe. This one kind of breaks down all his advertising secrets. This guy was a famous 20th century advertising tycoon, as Wikipedia so aptly puts it. And yeah, he was super famous, kind of a pioneer in the field in many ways. And what else do I want to say about him? Yeah. This book is kind of just a breakdown of his tactics. He did deals with Rolls-Royce, Dove Soap Company, and a few other famous brands. So yeah. Now, why would I want to read this? Well, because I have a YouTube channel, and I would eventually like to start using other forms of social media to kind of, grow my my following. I don't know, my cult that I'm starting. We're in a cult, guys. If you subscribe to this channel, you're in the cult, and yeah, I think these marketing tactics would transfer, so who knows. Next up, we have a old and tattered book, my favorite, and it is the Penguin Verse of Canadian, the Penguin Book of Canadian Verse. Yes, that's what it's called. Here it is. It's got a very nice picture. Where is that from? Let's see if the inside cover tells us where that image is taken. It does not. Okay, too bad. I'm sure it's a picture of the Rocky Mountains, but I can't tell where. Anyways, there's a lot of names in here, okay? It's how many pages? It's like a 320-page book, and there's probably, I don't know, 40 authors in here, all little short poems, and I only recognized maybe 4 of them, okay? I think Oliver Goldsmith is in here, Leonard Cohen is in here, okay? The famous, I think he was a singer-songwriter, right? They also have John McCrae, In Flanders Fields, Every Canadian, I read that growing up, for Remembrance Day on the 11th. And then, what was the last one? Dang, there's one more in here that I recognized, but I'm drawing a blank. Margaret Atwood. Very nice. Okay, cool. Poetry. Next up, we have a book that I didn't even... Well, there's a lot of books that I buy that I didn't know existed. But this one, I especially didn't know that it existed. And kind of didn't expect it, okay? So I have some books by Joseph Campbell. I have his Masks of God tetralogy. I also have his Hero with a Thousand Faces. But I also found a kind of a non-mythology book by him, and that's A Skeleton Key to Finnegans Wake, which he co-wrote with Henry Morton Robinson. Who's that? No clue. Anyways, they wrote this to help people decipher Finnegans Wake, which I do have a copy of. I got at one of the book sales. It's behind me here. Apparently, it's like super confusing. So yeah, this would be a good companion read to pair up with Finnegans Wake. So yeah, happy with that find. Next up, we have George Eliot's very first published novel, Scenes of a Clerical Life. Now, I think in one of the previous videos it says George Eliot was a man. That's a super dumb thing to say, because she was a woman, okay? Her name was Mary, and therein lies the issue, okay? George is a male name. It's not one of those unisex names, and it was a pen name. So, my bad, I fell for it. But, anyways, Scenes of a Clerical Life. It's made of 3 novellas, and it just kind of deals with, societal themes of, what am I trying to say? Like religious issues of the day. So like things like alcoholism, domestic abuse, poverty. Yeah, and it just kind of, she goes through from the perspective of a priest or a cleric. So yeah, that's cool. The flop on this one, happy to report, extravagant, excellent, superb. Next up, we also have the very first novel published by a different author, this time Thomas Hardy. I thought I had all of Thomas Hardy, or almost all, but I did not. I found this one. It's called Desperate Remedies. Okay, I think it was published under a pseudonym. Not too sure about that. It was a sensation novel. Okay, it has all sorts of crazy plot twists, like illegitimate sons, people who fake their death, people getting married to someone who's already engaged or something, so like bigamy. Anyways, all sorts of sensational things happen in this novel. And this is, Hardy's first, and apparently it was a great success, and it kind of catapulted his writing career. So yeah, cool. The last book on our stack today is some more nonfiction, and this is The Origins and History of Consciousness by Eric Neumann. It's more of a textbook on analytical psychology. Now, Eric Neumann was one of Carl Jung's best students, and so he's writing directly from that perspective. And in this book, he kind of, how would you say it? Like expands upon Jung's theory of the archetypes, which is right up my alley, right? Like just looking at the table of contents here, we've got the Ouroboros, the Great Mother, the Birth of the Hero, Slaying of the Mother, Slaying of the Father. What else? The Synthetic Function of the Ego, the Fragmentation of Archetypes. Yeah, all super interesting stuff. Probably won't read it anytime soon, but yeah, we'll get to it eventually. Oh, and look, it has some illustrations in here. You can see here there's this Indian drawing of a lady trying to put her toe in her mouth, sucking on her own toes. Not sure what that's all about. Can I do that? Nope, I'm not that flexible. That's impressive. Anyway, The Origins and History of Consciousness by Eric Neumann. For our O'Connor story today, we have, I keep saying this, the best, but it is truly a banger. Was it my favorite in terms of theme? Maybe not my favorite, but it was up there. But I actually think this one is technically her best. When I say technically, I'm referring to the technique of writing, in the fact that the way that she's able to make the reader emotionally invested and kind of grab our attention and our emotion and elicit those genuine responses is the most masterfully done of all the short stories I've read so far. And the story is called The Lame Shall Enter First, which is supposed to be referencing a Bible verse. We'll see in a minute how that ties in. But I was looking on the internet and I couldn't actually find any Bible verse that even says the lame shall enter first, referring to entering heaven first. The closest thing I could find for a reference for the title is in Matthew 21. Where does it say here? Jesus is talking to the tax collectors, not the tax collectors. He's talking to the Pharisees, the chief priests, and he says, "Truly I tell you, the tax collectors and the prostitutes are entering the kingdom of God ahead of you, because they're the ones that repent, even though they've lived a bad lifestyle. And the Pharisees, having lived a good lifestyle, but their heart is not in the right place, they're the ones that enter last." Anyways, nothing about the lame entering first, though, but maybe I'm missing something. I only looked for like 2 minutes, so maybe I didn't find it. But yeah, let's give a summary. So basically, okay, I always get the names wrong. Let's get the names right today. We have Shepherd. Okay, Shepherd is a middle-aged widower. He's a father of one boy named Norton, which sounds weird to us modern ears because you have that antivirus software, right? that comes installed on all the Windows machines. Anyways, so we have Shepherd. He's a widower. What does he do for work? I forget. But on the weekends, he volunteers at this clinic that is like a psychology place or like therapy or something like that. And he volunteers to help rehabilitate young offenders. And then we have his son Norton, whose father doesn't really see him as exceptionally bright or having a lot of potential. He's 10 years old and he kind of just is kind of bleh, and he kind of just likes making money. He counts his quarters and his nickels and his dimes a lot. But otherwise, he isn't really given a lot of personality. He's kind of flat. And then the last character, only 3 characters, is something Johnson. Oh man, I don't remember now. I read it literally this morning and I already forget the names. It's so bad. This is gonna bother me. Rufus Johnson. Okay, so Rufus Johnson is the young offender that he was seeing at his clinic on the weekends, and I guess one other important context to note is that Shepard is an atheist, a rationalist. Of course, O'Connor was a Catholic, so she's drawing very heavily on religious themes in her work, and Rufus Johnson, he's the 14-year-old young offender, and he is self-proclaimed evil, but he does believe in God and the Bible and all that stuff. So anyways, I hesitate to call him a Christian, though, because you'll see. Anyway, so after Rufus gets released from the juvenile detention center, Shepard is kind of sad because he's like, well, this kid is very, very smart. They had his IQ tested. It's like 140. It's like something really high. And he's like, okay, well, I got to help this kid because I got to like make him into give him the opportunity to reach his full potential. And so he like invites him over to his house. Rufus is all aloof and basically holds very high contempt for Shepard. And so he's trying to give him all these things, and he's kind of just like, man, doesn't really care. Now, during this time, Norton is kind of being ignored by his dad. But his dad is like giving all his attention to Rufus. He like buys him, he orders him a new shoe for his club foot, which he needs a special order to get that fitted. And he also gets him like a telescope, and he's like doing all these nice things for Rufus, but Norton is kind of left on the sideline. What else happens? Basically, eventually, several times, Rufus is caught, like, not caught, but like suspected in all these vandalism cases, and the police keep showing up to their door, and Shepard keeps defending Rufus. He's like, no, he didn't do it. And Rufus really just masterfully manipulates Shepard, because Shepard is just really trying to rehabilitate him, but he's kind of naive, and Rufus is like very street smart, street savvy, because he's already been in juvenile detention, and yeah, anyways, he's really masterfully manipulating Shepard. And so eventually it comes out that that Rufus is like knowledgeable about the Bible, and Shepard comes home one day and finds his 10-year-old seated next to Rufus on the couch, and before this they don't really get along well, but they're actually doing something together and getting along, but they're reading a Bible, which Rufus claims he stole from like a 10-cent store. Now, Shepard gets defensive, right, because he's like too smart for all that stuff, and so he's like not very thrilled that Rufus is reading the Bible to Norton. Jeez, I can't remember the names. And so Norton is one of the reasons he's kind of a bland character is because he has this like, not PTSD, but like depression, basically, because his mom is dead. And so he has no closure. And there's this like crazy scene explaining why he has no closure where I shouldn't laugh, it's not funny. But Shepard, it's a flashback, and Shepard basically is talking to Norton about where their mother is, because Norton is like really distraught for his mother, who I don't know if it says how she died, but Shepard is like, yeah, like your mother is she's not in heaven, she's not in hell either, she just doesn't exist, she's just gone. And this does not give Norton any closure, right? He wants to hear that his mother's in heaven. But when they're having this scene of Rufus reading Norton the Bible on the couch, Rufus explains to Norton that if his mother believed in God, she was in heaven. And so Norton then like loses respect for his father because why are all the names so confusing? Rufus is able to give him this closure that his father was never able to give him. So we have this weird inversion, right, where Norton is kind of no longer the son of Shepard, because Shepard is giving all his attention to Rufus, and Norton also doesn't really respect Shepard anymore. He kind of looks up to Rufus now. Anyway, where am I even going with this? Eventually, the shoe is ready that he ordered for Rufus. And so they go there to get the shoe, and of course this whole time Rufus has been really rejecting all of the nice things that Shepard is doing for him, but eventually he tries on the shoe and then takes it off, and there's not like eureka scene, but it's kind of like a turning point where he's like, he kind of finally rejects all of the, it symbolizes a total rejection of all of the nice things and the future life that Shepard has wanted to give to Rufus. And he's like, no, I like my old life. I like my clubfoot. And that's where he says the lame will enter first. And he's like, I don't like your life, your notion of progress, your notion of success. I don't like your atheism. I don't like your rationalism. I steal because I'm good at it. I vandalize because I like it. I like my clubfoot. I like my God. The lame shall enter first. And so again, there's more inversion where the good person in the story, Shepard, from O'Connor's perspective, right, because she's a Catholic, he's the good guy. And yet his goodness is founded upon nothing. And he tells lies about God and about the nature of the universe. Whereas Rufus, he's only 14, and he's a terrible person, and he even claims that Satan has his power over him, but he understands more about the world and about the universe and about God than Shepard does. And so there's more inversion going on. So it's very interesting. Anyways, they go home, and then eventually the police finally catch Rufus in the act of vandalizing a house. And so they catch him, they bring him to the front door, and they're like, hey, Shepard, we finally caught this kid. Stop defending him. We knew it was him the whole time. We finally caught him. We're taking him back to jail. And Shepard is just kind of like, holy crap. I've been neglecting my own son. He kind of just has this eureka moment where he's like, what have I been doing? I've been focusing all on Rufus. Now the last scene is very dark, and so be careful, because Norton's only 10, and previously Norton, when talking to Rufus about his mother at being in heaven, he's like, well, I want to go to heaven. And so Rufus explains, like, well, if you die and you believe in God, like, you go to heaven. And so he's like, and in one of the summaries I read, it says that's because he wanted to get there before he was corrupted, like while he was still a child. And so Norton, not really understanding, or maybe he did understand, I'm not really sure. But I mean, he's only a kid, right? So anyways, the final scene is Shepard realizes that he's been neglecting his own child, and he runs up to the attic where the telescope is that he bought for them, and Norton hung himself above the telescope so he could go see his mother in heaven. Crazy story, gut-wrenching. O'Connor really gets you invested in the characters, and all the scenes are kind of like you have this emotional response to them, which I'm a pretty like level-headed guy. Like when I read, I enjoy it, but I don't really get too like invested emotionally in almost anything I read. But in this short story, I did find myself like, just like getting emotionally invested in the characters. So really good. Sorry for that rambling summary. That was kind of all over the place, but yeah, I just need simple names like Jack and John and like Eric. Like Rufus and Norton and Shepard, those are all like confusing names to me. Anyways, I can barely I can barely talk, and I can barely remember my own name. So there's that. Anyway, have a good one. See you next week.